We use special steam coal which we get from England.
Right.
Now this, I don't know if you can see that's a sliding door that opens
right.
there.
And now you have the good fire.
Well, we put in bits of wood soaked in paraffin to start the fire.
Right.
And we have to put a blower, electric blower, on the funnel.
And that would create a draft or something?
That creates a draft.
Right.
And once the fire is going properly, we open what's a little valve here, that little valve there, that one.
Yes.
That brings steam up through little jets through the chimney to create the draft, keep the draft going.
Right.
Do you follow what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what's called a blower. Now, this is a little valve for the whistle.
Right.
And the whistle, a scale whistle, doesn't produce a decent noise.
Yeah.
So we have a big whistle underneath, hidden underneath. So this is a spare one for a thing called an injector. I haven't got it on yet.
Yeah.
I don't actually need it, but it's an extra precaution for putting water in the boiler. This is, if you like to call it, the throttle. The term is a regulator. It's called a regulator.
By moving it,
it opens up, gradually opens up a valve.
More steam into the cylinder.
Yes. So that's what's called the regulator.
Right.
Now, this is a very important thing. It's the water gauge. It tells you how much water is in the boiler. Little sight glass there.
Yeah.
And
how much water would you have in there? Would that be full?
The water, no. If you fill it up full, there's no room for the steam.
Yeah.
So you put it about 3/4 full.
On the glass.
On the glass, and
Right.
you try to keep it at that.
I see.
It's very dangerous to let the level go right down, so there's no water showing, because you can have an explosion then.
And what pressure now does it work?
About 100 pounds per square inch. 100 pounds per square inch, yes. It's quite a big pressure.
Is it hard to keep it?
No, it's not too hard to keep it, because you let boil. There's a valve here called a bypass valve. That one.
That valve there.
See that valve there? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now it controls the amount of water going into the boiler through the pump. There's a pump, an axle-driven pump.
Yeah.
And it pumps water continually into the boiler. And you can get a balance with this valve so that just the right amount's going in all the time.
Yeah.
If you put too much in, you'll lose steam pressure.
Yeah,
if you put too little in, the level will go down. So this is for balancing up
I see.
It's called a bypass. If you're in real trouble and the water's gone down, there's an emergency in here. I don't know if you can see that or not. You can put in there's a little lever that goes in there. I'll show you the lever. See this lever here? It goes in there, and there's a hand pump.
Oh, you can hand pump it in, water into the boiler.
That's an emergency pump.
Yeah.
In case, supposing you're stopped at the station and the axle pump isn't working.
Oh, that's right. It only works while it should be moving, of course.
So this is an emergency that you can use in case the pump, you're losing water. And so that's what that is. It's in the tank there. The two tanks are connected with a pipe.
Yeah.
It's underneath there, you can't see it.
And they level themselves out, do they?
So they level themselves out. So you really just need to put water in one side or the other.
Yeah.
Those are the little those are the little places you put the water in, okay? In that there's a filter too.
Those are real rivets, David, are they?
Yes, those are real rivets.
You drilled and you riveted every single one of those, did you?
Yes, those are actually done on the milling machine. I didn't have to measure or anything.
Have you any idea how many?
Well, they're not that number. I suppose there's about 200 there. Steamed, so to set these at slightly different pressures. One would go off, say, at 95, say, and the other one would go off at 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they always have two safety valves as a precaution.
Oh, there's two safety valves?
Yes.
Say that again now. One is that a bit lower than the other, is it?
Yes. The other one is an emergency one, really.
Yeah.
If one can't take the full amount of steam,
Yeah.
The other one will take over and they'll both go.
I didn't know there was two on them, yeah.
These are rather frightening sort of valves because unlike some valves that sort of bleed steam off gradually, these go off with they're called pop valves. They go off with a bang and they give you a fright. You know. So there you are. There are other things in here you haven't seen. This is the reversing gear in here. Do you see this?
Oh, yeah.
This is the reversing gear there, and also it lets steam in at different amounts, so as you can use the steam expansively. And yes, little lever, pull it back. Yes, there's a little spring on it there.
But you have it notched there now.
Yes, well, you often heard of them notching up an engine.
Yeah.
It means that you cut off the steam, instead of letting the steam push the piston the whole length of the cylinder, you can cut off the steam, say, half point, 50%, and let it expand.
Yeah.
So it saves steam.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So the whole point in all this gear down here is to save steam. Now, I don't know if you can see two levers down there. Three levers, actually. This lever here pulls out. That's the little valves on to stop water. You know, water, when you start up at first, the cylinders are cold.
Yes, okay?
Yes. And if you don't let the water out of the cylinders, you could blow the end off the cylinder.
Oh,
so if you'll have a look around, I'll show you around there. See these valves under here? There are two valves there on each side, and this control here, that water out, or it'll you know, you can put a huge pressure on the end of the cylinders. Now, there's a lever here which you pull up, right? And do you remember you welded up a job for the ash?
Oh, I did. I didn't do a very good job on Hydra.
You did it fine. This valve, this opens, I don't know whether you can see
Oh,
that.
it's something to do with the ash pan or
yes,
something, is it?
It opens a door at the end of the ash pan to let the air. When you pull that other lever, the grate does that.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And tips the ashes out. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And then the other door is to let the ashes out altogether. So that's what those two levers are there. What else is there? That's about nearly everything there, I think. Those are meant to be the seats for the driver, right? Yeah, I'll show you what's in there. Right. Let's get this thing out. I don't know, whether I get the light around there a bit. There's a thing called a superheater.
Yeah.
That means that the steam that's produced is heated again.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have the steam comes out from the dome where it's collected, comes forward here, and then it goes into more tubes that go inside the fire tubes. You understand that the tubes are fire tubes.
Yeah.
The fire
is in the tubes and the water
is comes through, and then you put pipes with steam in them right into the fire again.
Yeah.
And that's what all that gear is there.
They're been heated a second time.
Being heated a second time, and then eventually the steam goes down here into the cylinders.
Down into the cylinders.
Now, in there is the main exhaust. I don't know whether you can see it. That's in the middle of that is the big exhaust pipe.
Yeah.
But round it are four little jets.
Yeah.
And that pipe there leads from that control that you saw in there to feed those little jets when you're stopped at the station.
Right.
They're at an angle of 3 degrees, so that the jet comes up and forms just in here to create the draft of the chimney.
Up the chimney.
So those are four little jets, tiny jets, which you turn on when you're in the station. Do you get the idea?
Yeah.
So that's it's quite a lot. It's very difficult to get at everything. These have to be pushed right in through the other tubes, and they stick into the firebox about that much. So they're actually heated at a hot part of the fire.
Now the boiler tubes themselves, I see the end of them.
Yes.
They're
all fire
are they
tubes.
welded or pressed or compressed, or how are they sealed now?
They're silver soldered, actually.
Oh, they're all silver soldered.
Yes. Because there's water, you see, all around them.
Yeah.
So the temperature never gets terribly high.
I know, not with the water.
Yeah.
That's strange. Nowadays, central heating boilers work the opposite way. Did the waters in the tubes and the fires on the outside?
Oh, that's right. You can have you can have water tube boilers. In fact, all the big power stations, they're all water tube boilers.
Yeah. They never made trains that way, the engines, did they?
No, I don't think so. Not that I know of. No. Anyway, that's the works in there. The main thing is fiddly getting everything screwed up, and I had a lot of trouble with leaks and things like that. But I better put that. What do I do?
What's that on the outside? Is that just a handrail, or is it
Just as a handrail? Yes, and these are for lamps.
Oh, I see.
I haven't made them yet, but those are for lamps, and there actually should be some here as well. But anyway, what did I do with that bar? This is just for holding
Oh,
this.
I see.
This is the way it's done on the full size ones too. That little pip there goes in and turns round like that.
And then you
So it
tighten it up.
locks. Yes. Yeah. So that I meant to go
But
through that.
that would be all full of ash and all there on a working.
It
train,
would. Oh,
would
it gets in an awful mess inside. You know, it's all full of that. In fact, at night time in the old days with the bad cold, there used to be a lot of stuff collecting here, and at night you should see this all red here at the bottom. Especially during the war when they had very bad cold. So there you are. This is the water connection into the boiler.
From where?
From the pump.
The pump is being driven off the axle?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll show you that in a minute now. This way you can, you know, turn it over. Otherwise, I couldn't lift it. Otherwise, you know.
What weight do you think it is, David?
I think it's about 130 pounds. I just want to. Could you?
So that's open the ash pan now.
Yeah.
And
up above, you can probably see the grate in there is tilted now, open.
Yeah, I can see it.
Let's see if I can get that. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but you can't see it very well anyway, but it's up there anyway.
I'll just go this again, just in case I missed. And this is the pump that's driven from the axle.
Driven from the axle, yes.
It's an eccentric. And it also drives
a lubricator.
A lubricator.
Yes, which injects the oil directly into the steam line there. Do you see that?
Into the steam line that goes into the cylinders.
Yes. Insulated with balsa wood, strangely enough. And there's a valve here which lets the steam in one end and then in the other end.
Right.
It's a double acting.
So the steam goes
drive the piston that way,
and that will push that rod forward.
Yes, that pushes that forward. And then it goes the other end and pushes it back again.
Then the steam pushes it back again.
Yes.
So it's double acting. It's not like a car where it just pushes in one direction.
No, it's a double acting.
Yeah.
That's the piston rod, and that's the valve rod. And all this gear here, I'll show you what happens there. When you see that?
Yeah, what are you doing now?
Now, I'm altering the point at which the steam cuts off in the cylinder.
Oh, that's what you were
saying.
See,
it's on a curved thing there.
Yeah.
That's the reverse. But before you get to the reverse, you can alter the points at which the valve opens into the cylinder. It's called a Volchart's valve gear.
Right.
It's all quite linked up. It's quite complicated, really.
And you had to make a machine.
I had to make it all
everything
I machined all these out of the solid. And I did all those before I had a milling machine.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now,
I couldn't do it now.
The two wheels are joined together. But that's the conrod, is it, to join both wheels together?
Yes. You can see it down. I'll bring it round so you can see there's the conrod there.
The two wheels are connected.
Yes.
Well, have you two conrods? What's the second one?
Oh, no, this is drives the piston. This is what drives the whole engine. This is the piston rod, piston shaft. You know, the pistons here, and this is pushing this around.
Oh, it pushes this
This is
wheel.
drivers,
And this
yes.
wheel is a kind of connected, driven from that wheel,
Yes.
kind of.
Yes.
Yeah, I see
This
now.
one is only a dead wheel,
Yeah,
if you like.
yeah,
It's driven from
the
this one.
piston drive.
Piston
And is it
drive.
usual to drive the farthest wheel away from the...
Well, obviously, yes. Well, it's more convenient. It's very hard to drive it there, wouldn't it?
Well, of course, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So normally, if it was a six-coupled one, it would be the middle wheel would be driven.
And would only one wheel be driven normally?
Yes, yeah.
Not
one
around the
wheel.
train.
Yeah, they're always linked up.
And the other ones would be just linked in.
Yes,
Well, the bogie wheel is just free to move then.
It's free to move, yes.
Yeah.
It's really just to balance up the weight of the thing. That
But you
does
know when they talk about 4 2s and 4 1s, and hasn't that something to do with the wheel
Yes.
lying later or something?
this is what's called an 042. Because there's nothing at the front.
Oh, and if there were something in
You
the
might
front-
have bogies, say 4 4 2.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Or you might have 2 4 2.
Yeah.
There are a whole lot of different arrangements.
Yeah.
And
Well, now how the 2 cylinders, how do they work? If one don't work against the other, you know what I mean? The two of them
they work alternatively. You can see that, you know, when that one's going in, this one's coming out.
But there'd have to be time, like one wouldn't want to be pulling against the other.
I know, well that's, it's when you're putting the wheels on, you have to do that.
That all has to be
You
done,
have to do
yeah.
that. That's a very early job when you're pressing the wheels on.
Yeah, that could be very...
You have to make up a jig to get them at right angles to one another.
That would be extremely important, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, we're very. Otherwise, the thing would
Yeah,
lock
yeah,
up.
so just black out, yeah.
Yeah. So you see, those are different positions. No. Oh, that's it. I don't know whether there's anything else really. This is for knocking cows off the track. The wheels were castings which had to be machined, of course. There are not very many castings in it. Most of the stuff's chewed out of the solid. And the eccentric is bronze. And the little oilers on top of all these. The little
Well, now the
oilers.
wheels and bearings and all,
Yeah.
were they oiled just manually every day or every so often? Or?
Yeah, the bearings are all, you can see them up here, they're very heavy bearings. See them in there.
Yeah.
They slide up and down. See?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Big bronze bearings, are
Yes, they're bronze bearings.
Yeah.
They're big ones. They're just plain bearings. They're not
they?
ball bearings or anything like that. But these things have plenty of power. I mean, that thing would pull 25 people now.
Yeah. That's hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's not high.
Yeah.
What kind
But
of horsepower or steam horsepower does it?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
Somebody did give me worked it out for me, and I don't know where I put the information. So there you are. That's. I'm glad. See, I couldn't do any more because my eyesight. I'm meant to be sort of partially blind now, and I can't read and things like that. So I just finished it in time.
Well, it's marvellous.
There's one thing I haven't finished, and I'm not going to bother about the brakes because we never used.
Aye. Oh, what were they? Just some big lump of metal that rubbed against the wheel or
Yes,
something? Was it?
yes. Because the reason I haven't bothered about them is that we don't use them because we use the brakes on the cars you're sitting on.
I see.
Because they're much more effective when you're sitting on the car
Well, they will be.
rather than this would only slide along the track.
But it's amazing to think that this was just made out of solid steel.
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
yeah.
everything had to be made and shaped.
I'm
and
afraid I
drilled
made
and
it the hard way. Nowadays,
even the little,
I mean, even the frame had to be cut out. You see all these bits.
and even though it had to be drilled. And,
Yeah, no,
and
they're all little
split
pins. They're all little pins in them. Yes.
Yeah.
And not only are there pins, but they're sleeves as
And
well.
did you make the nuts even?
Yeah, didn't make the nuts. No. Oh no, I did make the ones. There's some nuts with slots in them, I think.
Yeah, here's one here now.
Yeah.
Castellet.
But there's a sleeve, a steel sleeve as well on the thing, on each one. And that's an adjustable bearing there. This is adjustable.
Yeah.
There's a little thing moves up and down there that's on an angle, and it can adjust the bearing, that bearing.
Yeah.
So there you are. That's more or less it. I got it. I won't bother. My eyesight's not good enough. Yeah. You see, they have to go on.
Oh, yeah.
And they're spring loaded. They were chewed out of a solid piece too. You can imagine how much stuff I took off
Took a lot
doing
of
that.
machining to get that down.
Yeah, some people now just Loctite this bit on separately.
Now this dome.
Yeah, the dome, inside the dome is if you like, the throttle.
Yeah.
The shaft goes from this control here to a valve.
Right.
And this is only a cover. I can take that
I know,
off.
don't bother there,
Well, it's only a little tiny screw on the top. It's not a... Right.
We have it off.
That's the insulation, by the way, in the boiler there.
Yeah.
But inside that is a sort of a valve, which is controlled from there.
Right.
But that's really, this is only just to make it look nice.
And what valve down? What does?
That produces, that allows the steam out into the cylinders.
That's where the steam from the boiler passes through that to get into the
Yes,
cylinders.
it goes. Yes.
And it's regulated there, is it?
Yes. Yes, it is. This is the regulator, really.
Yeah.
And there's a pipe goes back and connects into the steam pipes.
The dome is very fancy. Just hold that up again.
That, yeah.
Like a German war hat. And
Well,
did you
it
make
is.
that yourself now?
That was a rough casting, which I had to turn both inside and all round.
It's very hard to turn it because it's so different many shapes. On
Well, I
it.
used a hand tool for that. I made a tool for doing it by hand.
Yeah.
I'll show it to you in a minute. But anyway,
It's not something that you could just put in a lathe because it's, you know, it's such irregular shapes.
yeah. Well, you know, that really should be painted black because these engines
Well, that'd be
didn't
beautiful.
have a polished dome on them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of painting it.
I think you'd ruin it.
Huh?
It looks nice that way.
That's the way it goes. Right. Leave that little thing.
The next thing now I'm going to have to see it running. When do you expect to have it running? Next summer? Number 1, now he's number 2. Where are they?
Yeah. Well, he hasn't got a plate on his, I don't
Oh.
think. But it's a bit cruder and it...
Bridget, that is the name of the engine, is it? I mean...
Yes. Well, I don't know whether that's the name of the fellow that designed this engine, gave it that name. But this engine has been painted up red instead, and it has polished brass bands on it. But I didn't think that was what they were like.
Yeah.
They weren't jazzed up like
They were
that.
just a workhorse and they
In
were
fact,
probably...
engines were pretty dirty old things, really.
Well, the ones I can remember, certainly were. Especially the traction sets.
Yeah.
When I go to the shows and see these traction sets and they're all red and shiny, the ones I remember, they were all dirty
right,
and they were
yeah.
binder twine tied around for to keep
That's
the
right.
steam from leaking.
Yes, that's right. But anyway, the thing is you can have them too nice.